or evening as it may be. And welcome to our weekly Monday evening class. And happy Holy, that I understand, today's Holy. And I hope all of you have enjoyed your day today. And perhaps you've got drenched in colors, but probably by this time of day, you're probably all washed out. Anyway, today's topic I find to be a very interesting topic, and you might say I find it interesting for a number of reasons, but primarily it's because it goes to the heart of what we as yogis are trying to do, is to gain control of the reactive process. And you'll see as I speak to this topic, which is on the topic of willingness, or you might say how to overcome unwillingness, that balance between those two forces. And it's a very primal topic, as we'll discover. And I want to begin by first reading a passage from Swami Kriyananda's book on the affirmations for self-healing. And I'm going to bring it up here and on my screen. And he speaks about willingness. And he says, and this reading is just full of very pithy statements. He says, willingness must be cultivated deliberately. Yeah, I'll read that again. Willingness must be cultivated deliberately. It is an attitude of mind and depends not on outward conditions. Most people are willing or unwilling depending on their likes and dislikes. This habit tends to develop a bias toward unwillingness, which gradually becomes chronic and attracts to itself chronic failure. Don't wait for favorable circumstances to awaken willingness in you. Train yourself in the attitude of saying yes to life. Often by this simple attitude, you will find success arriving unexpected at your door. And the affirmation for this that goes with it, we won't do the affirmation, but let me read it. It says, I welcome everything that comes to me as an opportunity for further growth. And very interestingly, the prayer that goes with this weekly reading is, Lord, help me to overcome the satanic pull of unwillingness. The more I embrace life in your name, the more I feel your joy. Now that's quite an interesting statement he makes there. He says, help me to overcome the satanic pull of unwillingness. That's a strong statement. Now I wonder why in the world does he say that? And let's explore that. Now, all of us, we practice yoga, and what is the basic statement of yoga, as Patanjali says? Yoga is the neutralization of the waves of chitta. And Master explained that chitta, commonly understood in simple language, it can be translated a number of ways, but simply is to think of it as it's the feeling nature of the heart, feeling, one of that aspects of consciousness, of feeling, the subjective appreciation, a perception of life through our intuitive feelings. And he simplified it even further. You could say it's basically the likes and dislikes of the heart, and that emotional feeling of likes and dislikes. And what Swamiji is saying in this reading is that, and he says it very clearly, he says people tend to be willing or unwilling according to their likes and dislikes. In other words, I'm willing, somebody, I think of somebody that you know, or maybe even look in the mirror and we see ourselves. And some people are chronically of an unwilling nature. In other words, it's a quality it's a trait that they take on that you might say is characteristic of them. And somebody would say, oh, hey, would you help me do this? Oh, I don't know. I don't want, oh, I got to think about it. And they're just, that they're not going to just immediately say, okay, hey, what needs to be done? Help me move the desk. Okay, let's move the desk. There's that unwilling ness that immediately comes up into their nature, and then they have to talk themselves into it. And this breeds, in a sense, moving a desk is one simple little thing to help you move a desk, but an approach to life that is basically unwilling because that's going to be hard. I don't like to do that. I don't want to do that. And so you begin to follow your likes and dislikes, and you're very willing to do so. Let's go get ice cream. Oh, yeah, let's go get that. So, yes, you're very willing to do that. But when you start judging your ability, your response to life according to your likes and dislikes, it develops. Here's what the interesting part. He says what happens is it eventually develops a bias toward unwillingness. In other words, you tend to be biased towards your dislikes, and you tend to be led by them, you might say. And being led in life by our likes and dislikes is like a bull with the ring in his nose. You're being pulled one way or the other according to the master, and we don't want to be like that. We want to be guided in life by something other than that. And so basically what Matt Swamiji is saying here is we have to cultivate. Now, almost everybody, unless they have lots of karmic good background where they've done this before, the necessity to cultivate, to put out some effort, to make a conscious choice, to be able to follow something higher than our likes or dislikes. And now, why is this way? I mean, if circumstances we say are neutral, why is there a bias toward unwillingness? And this is where it's interesting. Swami calls this, there is a satanic pull. Now we think of satanic pull as some sort of evil force, and a little, toward negativity. But in a sense, it's more basic than that. This creative force that comes in and is manifested here in this creation, the soul has been manifested, is an outward force into manifestation, into creation. And you could say the spiritual path is learning to traverse in the opposite direction and to climb that ladder back to our original home in divinity. And so we have to, and to climb back up the ladder takes a certain amount of effort. And we've been talking in many of the classes we've been talking about is this evolutionary process toward greater awareness. The whole process of evolution is rising up. And we've used it many times, this image of climbing the mountain. It all takes a certain effort to go upward. It takes very little effort to go down and slide down. And there is within human consciousness this pull, magnetic pull toward the subconscious, or toward unconsciousness even. I guess you could say there's really no such thing as unconsciousness, everything being consciousness, but it's a pull toward the lowest levels of consciousness. It's like the sliding down. Oh, I want to give up. And down we go, down the slide, down the mountainside. And so then, but this is not something that's unique to any individual. This is built into the fabric of creation itself. It's like gravity. Gravity is just a force, and we have to stand up, to go about our day. We have to resist the force of gravity just to get up off of our chair and off the floor. We out of bed. And so this doesn't happen unless we cultivate that. Now, naturally, of course, where it's built into us, we don't think about these things in every instance, because we follow our likes also. But and so we want to do something, but yet behind it, and this is where the practice of yoga comes in. If we trace our actions back, our likes and our dislikes back, there's a little impulse within it. I like it, so I'm gonna pursue it. I don't like it, I'm gonna resist it. Or you could say, maybe not so much resist, I'm going to be reluctant. So you could say that your willingness versus unwillingness might be also framed as a willingness versus reluctance to do it, wanting to stay still. You might say to stay in that middle zone. But in the long run, you can't stay in that middle zone. If you're not pushing up a little bit, the tug of creation itself is going to pull us in that bias, in that direction toward unwillingness. So, in a sense, the human condition is that we always have to rise up. And you could say it's a little bit of we have to struggle a little bit. We have to use our will. We have to become conscious. We have to, and that you could say is that's the human condition we find ourselves in until we struggle and we start. Finally, we get tired and we give up, and this lifetime's over pretty much, and then go back, into that sleep of death, and then we're born again. And you could say every night is like that. We rest into that subconscious state, and then in the next morning we have to wake up and we go, oh, I don't want to wake up. I don't want to get out of bed. But yet we know we have to do it. And we get up and we go about our duties. Now, I remember when I was a boy, little boy, 8, 10, whatever, that age, before I became a teenager, I wake up in the morning, I'd pop right out of bed because life was a new day, playing and going out, being with my friends was ahead of me. And I didn't want to go to sleep, and I wanted to get up and go out and play. And then you get to those teenagers and, oh, I just wanted to sleep in the morning. I didn't want to get out of bed. and then slowly as you go past the teenager years and you start saying, well, I guess I have to go out and get out of bed. I have to go to work. I've got these duties to do. And you begin to resist that and that pull because you have something to do. You can't just go back to sleep. Nothing gets done. You don't solve the problems, and you take up. You could say the spiritual path is really then taken up consciously. I have to fight this battle. I have these things I need to overcome, and we find that as we do that, that's what we create a certain magnetism within us. Now, unfortunately, this is a long rhythm, eons, lifetimes upon lifetimes. We develop this certain tendency, this bias toward being unwilling, and it's something within us. And as a yogi, I think this is a very good topic, particularly for us, because there's many reasons why to be unwilling. Somebody asks something of us, and we tend to think, well, I'll think it out and I'll think of all the reasons why I should be willing. We have to go at a more basic level in there at that. And I think the path of yoga, whether it's in this quality, and there are many other qualities very similar to this, if we trace them back as a yogi to that little impulse in the heart, the up or the downward movement, the reactive process, if we can, and I think willingness is a good one because it helps us hone in our introspection on that reactive process, to be aware of it in each moment when things happen to us, that reactive tendency. Am I willing, or am I embracing life, the problem, the challenge, whatever the situation is before me, or am I moving away from it? Am I reluctant? I want to, oh no, here's another one. That is, you might say, a fraction of a second happens when something comes to us. And if we can learn to identify that, we see that we can begin to take hold of ourselves and self-control. When we meditate, we begin to inculcate within ourselves this a willing practice, an aspirational practice, an embracive frame of mind. And that's a result of it happens through meditation naturally. If we do meditate or we practice Kriya Yoga, these are the fruits of that. And but yet, if we can learn to identify that movement of energy, which is sort of the practice of Kriya, we become aware of these movements of energy. We can also practice this in the moment by moment of our lives, and this too helps us all in the goal of neutralizing that reactive process. And you could say we neutralize unwillingness by being willing. Now you could say we want to get to that middle state, but yet undo the unwillingness, and naturally we're going to start moving in the upward direction. So if we can learn to identify that. For example, let's use a little example that you can frame in a circumstance in your own way, in your own life. You're in an office. You're working along at the office, and an office mate comes in, and perhaps she's has trouble, and she asks you, "Oh, could you help me? The copier is jammed. It's got a paper jam. I don't know how to fix it. Could you help me?" And you go, immediately, what do I do? I don't, there's one impulse, I don't want to do this. Or you say, yes. What's that first reaction? Are you going to embrace what come to you, or is that going to reject it? Now, there may be all sorts of reasons why you don't want to help. Some of them may be good reasons. I'm sorry, I can't help you because the boss he wants me in his office in 30 seconds and I really can't help you. So you say, no, I can't do that. Or, I don't really want to help you because I don't like you. Or this is the 5th time that you've come in and asked me to do this. You ought to learn this yourself. Or, or it's somebody else's job. It's not my job. I'm too busy. There's all these other reasons that why you don't want to help her. And so consequently, and it stimulates a negative reason of why you don't want to help. Now, they all may be true. They all may be valid. But what was the feeling in your heart when that request came to you? Was, oh, go away. Or was it, okay, I got a problem. This person a problem has come to my doorstep. Am I going to embrace it and solve it? Or am I going to go away from it? Oh, I don't want to deal with it. Not the reasons, the feeling. Because from the feeling, every other things will follow. So I think everything is like that in life. Life is presenting us a certain challenge in every moment. And if we're in an embracive tendency to embrace what the challenge is, the real challenge in this one might have been the fact that you don't want to help her because any number of reasons. Well, that's the real problem. It's not the paper jam in the copier. You don't want to deal with the fact that you don't like this person. You have resentment, you have reluctance. That's the real problem, and everything else follows from that. But even so, that's good for you to know. You say, okay, I got a problem with reluctancy. I got a problem with this person. I've got a problem with this or that or another thing. And the willingness to look at whatever's come to you and embrace it, say, okay, I need to deal with that in some way or another. Now, I don't mean for us every little moment in life to start over-intellectualizing these things. But what I'm saying, and because the solutions might be 100 different solutions might be there. So it's not about that. It's about recognizing the upward and the embracive or the rejection movement of the heart. Because many people say the person comes in, I have a problem with the copper. Okay, let me help you. Oh, wait a minute, I can't do that because I've got this, that, and oh, by the way, where's the fellow who's responsible for that? And you're looking the immediate tendency to find the solution for it. And it all goes back to that little upward and downward movement. Now, some of these things you could say are fixing the copy machine maybe isn't really my duty. So I'm kind of, it brings it up, well, should I help or not help? But some of these things in life, generally, we have duties in life. And I think this is when we're a teenager and we start to move into adulthood. We realize I have duties in life. I have things that I'm supposed to do or my responsibility to do. It's my dharma to do. And if we can learn to uh, do what our duties are, and this is, the copy machine is a little bit discretionary, but the duties are things we're responsible. I have a duty. I have a duty to get up in the morning and go to work, maybe. Well, so many people, just taking that as an example, oh, I'm reluctant. I just want to sleep. Sleep too is samadhi, like Swami says about, or Master said about one of his gurubhais. That approach to life is not going to succeed for you. And that's at the basic foundation of why this is an important topic. Because if we develop an attitude of willingness, the universe responds. And we find that we end up being happier. We found, and not only just I feel happy, but basically we end up sowing the seeds of success. We find that life begins to go smoother for us. Reluctance is like sandpaper on the floor when we're trying to move furniture, from one spot to another. It just makes everything difficult. But if a person is willing, and I guess you could say positively enthusiastic versus reluctant, everything goes smoother. But imagine going through life being reluctant to do anything. You just want you want to basically sink back into unconsciousness. That's an expression of. And that certainly is not going to bring success. It certainly won't bring happiness. And the universe itself doesn't respond to that. So I think with something, as Swami says right at the beginning, it needs to be cultivated. It doesn't always just come naturally in a neutral situation. We have to cultivate it in finer and finer and more subtle ways. And so she might, so obviously, how do we do that? Well, don't overthink it. Sister Gyanamata, in her book, God Alone, which, by the way, an excellent book to read. I readily recommend it, Attitudes for the Devotee, the Disciple particularly. She says, when Guru asks you to do something, say yes and make it snappy. In other words, don't think about it. Just say yes, and the Guru asks us to do something. Well, you say, well, of course, if the Guru asks me, and you hear this in disciples will say that, well, yeah, but the Guru didn't ask me to fix the copier. Life asked you to fix the copier, or life asked you to do this or that. And we have to see that the Guru, God, it's all circumstances around us. There's behind it all, there's the divine forces of life have asked us to do something in life, and how do we respond to it? And again, it's not the particulars, it's we've been poked. Somebody has put a little pin in our, like I got my vaccination shot, put a little pin, that how do we react when we're poked? Do we react positively? Do we react more negatively? Do we embrace it, or we shy away from it? We say, go away, I don't want this. Even though we know, just like that vaccination, it's for our benefit. And so watch that first impulse. Certainly, if you can learn to do that. Now, this is not something that's so easy, but this is why we practice Kriya Yoga. It's why we meditate and remove ourselves from the immediacy of every little thought and feeling and emotion, to begin to watch them and to observe them and not identify with them. And in a sense, we become less personal, you might say. We take a little bit more impersonal view of life, of other people, other situations, but also particularly of our own situation. So we can not react. And this is what meditation does for us, and particularly Kriya, when we practice Kriya, is going down into the root and learning us to be able to consciously, you might say, take that life force up, take that life force down, to make it into balance and to control those life forces. So when we're, because that's really what we're dealing with when we're given a challenge in life, is responding to the how is our energy going to move. And so consequently, if we can learn to control that, we gain control of ourselves. We gain control, and this spreads out into so many aspects of our life. And so say yes, but don't overthink it. It's that impulse. And then of course, when you go forward, you say, okay, let me see what I can do with copy. Oh, by the way, I've got to go to the meeting with the boss. I'm sorry, but I'll help. Somebody else will help you. Or I'll come back to you. Or let me help you. Oh, hey, where's that maintenance man? Where is he? Let's find him. Or whatever it might be. And then maybe this is like the 10th time this person has asked you to do this and he's foisting this on you. You say, yeah, I'll help you. Let's fix it. And by the way, I'll help you fix this. You help me fix this thing. So next time, you can say this maybe with a little force in your tone. Next time, you can do this. Why don't you try doing it yourself next time? But kindly, you can say that. Or whatever it takes, to solve the problem. Because the problem is yours on many levels. And so, are you going to get yourself in trouble doing this? In other words, oh, she took advantage of me again. She used my kind-hearted nature, and you're going to not confront the deeper problem of maybe you've got a problem with this. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes, but nevertheless, we have to train ourselves. Should I or shouldn't I? Because life is biasing us toward following circumstances and on our likes and dislikes, and we're biased toward reluctance, we're biased toward unwillingness, we have to, in our response to engagement, we have to bias ourselves on the other side, even when sometimes we do make mistakes there and we've bit off more than we can chew. And but if we in the Army, they say, there's a saying, it says, never volunteer for anything in the Army, because of course that's why the officers tell you to do stuff, but sometimes they ask for volunteers, say, no, don't volunteer, you're safer that way. Well, if we approach life that way, never volunteer, we're gonna be a private our whole career in this life, and we're going to peel potatoes, on kitchen duty for the rest of our lives, figuratively. And but if you want to raise up the ranks and become the cook or become the general, you have to be embracive, be willing to find solutions, and God helps those, and the universe itself responds, and somehow you find a harmonious response begins to happen, and things begin to flow smoother for you, and we find ourselves happier. That sandpaper makes life so difficult. I feel sorry for people that are just that way, because I know inwardly it's always having to deal with that feeling, that lack of joyful enthusiasm that comes to the devotee when we allow ourselves to indulge in that no sane habit. So say yes, and then figure it out. Don't think you have to figure it out first, and then say yes. Now, obviously, I don't mean we should be a robot, and obviously we have to make proper choices and do it. And that's not, again, look at which direction are you being influenced? Because your intellect is going to follow that directional flow, that momentary microsecond when you make that decision, either yes or no, and then you'll start thinking about what the solution is. And if you get them energy, if you're responding in an upward way, solutions will begin to come to you because it's magnetic. The magnetism of that movement of life force and our responsive nature will begin to attract that which we want. And you'll find the first thing you begin to attract is you begin to attract energy. You know, you say, tendency to say no is because of sometimes a lack of energy. Say yes, and immediately energy will start to come into you, and you'll be able to be more successful in life. And successful for the spiritual devotee is happiness and joy. You'll begin to be more joyful, and you attract positive circumstances around yourself. And so give it some thought, because it's from this quality, you could say, from the quality of willingness, so many other things are basically related to it. You could say positive attitudes, or enthusiasm, or energy itself, drawing energy. The willing person is somebody who's going to be much more attractive, but also much more energetic inwardly. And then that, you see, all of this, fixing the copy machine is not really what we're talking about. We're talking about fixing inside of ourselves so that we can draw a divine response. The energy gets to be moving up. And that's where it pays off for us, if we want to look at it in terms of its practical benefit. Not the outer success, but the inner success that comes with it. And we find that things work for us on all levels. So I want to give you a chance. If you have questions or chat, please do write them in the chat box. And or I guess I could put this on the gallery view, and you could even raise your hand if you want to. Oops, I can't see a gallery view. Okay. Bara, can I see the gallery view? I don't know how to fix that.
We are on a webinar, Jayaji, that's why.
Oh, yeah, we can't do that. Okay, a chat box. I think it's a chat box and questions and answers. Okay, well, anyway, I want you to have a very nice week this week, and next Monday we'll come back. And like I say almost every time, if you have specific topics you'd like us to address, please write them in, and I'll respond back and put them on the agenda for topics for the future. Many blessings for you, and again, happy Holi on this blessed day. Joy to you.